when we look at Queen Elizabeth I's speech to the troops at Tilbury, and we just simply look at the pronouns, we can see a lot going on. She begins with the royal we. So the royal we is also referred to as the majestic plural. It's the use of the plural pronoun we, us, ours to refer to a single monarch, in this case Queen Elizabeth I, or a religious leader, the Pope. But it refers to both her as a person and the title and the position. So she is England in this case. Then she shifts into her personal pronouns. So she moves very quickly within the same sentence from using the royal we to personal pronouns. There are 3 different cases for personal pronouns: nominative, objective, and possessive. She uses a number of reflexive pronouns. A reflexive pronoun ends in self or selves, and it's a pronoun that occurs in the predicate and refers back to the subject. They are grammatically necessary for the sentence to make sense. Take a look at the first one. The boy kicked himself. If I take the word himself out, the boy kicked, it doesn't mean the same thing. Same thing with the second sentence. She made herself coffee. She made coffee. Not the same thing. You should address the letter to yourself. You should address the letter to, and obviously in that case we need the yourself because it's the object of the preposition. Queen Elizabeth also uses intensive pronouns. Intensive pronouns also end in self or selves, but it's a pronoun that adds emphasis to a noun or a pronoun that's already named. And it's not grammatically necessary for the sentence, but it does add emphasis to the noun or the pronoun. So for example, George himself bought a copy of American Tall Tales. By the way, American Tall Tales should be italicized. He himself paid for the book. Queen Elizabeth begins this speech with the royal we. Now, why might she begin her speech this way? We know that her legitimacy as queen has always been in question because her father annulled his first marriage to Catherine of Aragon to marry Elizabeth's mother, Anne Boleyn. So many didn't recognize her marriage as legitimate. But she doesn't stay with the royal we. She doesn't separate herself from her people for very long. She very quickly shifts into the personal pronouns. Within the very same sentence, she transitions away from the royal we and to the personal pronoun I. It's as if she separates herself from the royal title and connects more with the common men that stand before her, these men that are about to go into battle. Within line 1, she confronts those who might wish her harm, and she connects back to my faithful and loving people. And she follows it up with the imperative, let tyrants fear. Now, who is she calling a tyrant? It's not directly stated, but one can assume she's addressing those men in the audience who would question her legitimacy, who would, I can't say that word, legitimacy, who would do her harm. When I'm working with a rhetorical analysis, it's really important to think about the arrangement of the piece. Our goal is to describe what is happening in the piece and the techniques that the writer is using. And so I like to move just in chronological order. I will often begin by using the material that is provided to me in the overview for the rhetorical analysis, and then I will move into the opening of the piece, talk about the middle and the shifts within the body of the piece, and then move into the ending of the piece. And then the last couple sentences will be there to clarify the arguments that were made and to kind of bring the whole piece to a close. Go back and think about the elements of a rhetorical précis, that very first argument that we worked with at the beginning of the year. You need to make sure in your rhetorical analysis that you have included the central argument or arguments. You've discussed how the author proves or supports those arguments, including rhetorical devices, the arrangement of the arguments, the arrangement of the sentences, the evidence, who is the audience, both immediate and secondary, and then finally, what is the exigency? Why is this piece being written at this time and for this audience? Now, they don't have to go in this order, but you need to make sure you include all those elements. In addition to moving chronologically through a piece, I often look for a secondary method with which to organize the analysis. I might look for a rhetorical device the writer uses, or something interesting that I see in the arrangement, or maybe shifts in tone or content or point of view. In Queen Elizabeth's speech, two things stepped out to me. Number one, her use of pronouns and the shifting of the pronouns. And second of all, the use of epistrophe, specifically moving into climax. Now remember, epistrophe is a repeated ending phrases or clauses. And the climax is usually in a series, the last thing that happens is the climax. It's the most important. And how does that climax change within her use of epistrophe? Let's take a look at the piece more closely. Let's take a look at the next sentence, a sentence which runs from lines 6 through 13. She has a series of phrases and clauses which build on each other. So she follows "let tyrants fear" with this defiant defense. And she again shifts into the personal pronouns. She begins with, "I have always so behaved myself." So we have that reflexive pronoun. And she says, "I have always so behaved myself that under God, I swear to God, I have placed my chiefest strength and safeguard in the loyal hearts and goodwill of my subjects." Again, she is referring to these people who may wish her harm in the best possible light. It's almost as if she's willing them to be the best people that they can be. And then she has this wonderful epistrophe in which she says, "I am willing to lay down my life for my God, for my kingdom, my people, my honor, and my blood, even in the dust." Let's move to the next sentence. She addresses the issue of gender. She says, "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and a king of England too. Not just any king, a king of England." And then she says, "And think foul scorn that Parma or Spain or any prince of Europe," comparing a prince to the king of England, "shall dare to invade the borders of my realm," again that personal pronoun, "to which rather than any dishonor shall grow by me, I myself," we have the reflexive pronoun, "will take up arms. I myself," and she repeats it again, "will be your general, judge, and rewarder of every one of your virtues in the field." And here she invokes the 3 G's of almost any battle speech: God, glory, and gold. So she finishes up this speech by continuing to elaborate the rewards the men will receive when they follow her lieutenant general into battle. She speaks, as she has through this whole speech, with the assumption that these men before her will honor her will and act to defend both queen and country. But as she ends again with epistrophe, this time the climax of the series is different. And if we believe the climax is the most important, this time she ends differently. "We shall shortly have a famous victory over those enemies of my God, of my kingdom, and of my people," with her people being the most important. So a lot went on in this little 28-line speech. She confronts the preconceptions of her troops might have of her, and she turns their hearts toward defending queen and country.
My loving people, I have always so conducted myself that under God, my strength and safety lies in the loyal hearts and goodwill of my subjects. So I come amongst you at this time, not for my recreation,
but being resolved in the midst and heat of battle to live or die amongst you all, to lay down for my God and for my kingdom and my people, my honor and my blood, even in the dust.
I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and a king of England too. And I think foul scorn that Spain or any prince of Europe should dare to invade the borders of my realm, to which, rather than face that dishonor, I will myself take up arms beside you. I will be your general and your rewarder for your virtues in the field. We know that you already deserve rewards and crowns, and we do assure you, in the word of a prince, they shall be paid to you. And take heed, too, of my lieutenant general. For no prince ever commanded a more worthy or noble subject as he. By your obedience to him, by your valor in battle, we shall yet win a famous victory over these enemies of God, on my kingdom and on my